I'm Jon Mancini and I was resident DJ here for Streetrave between 89 and 93 right here at the Air Pavilion. And the things that got it for me were the four big white pillars, and also when you drove up to the building, there was always a massive queue that went right down there. It was called the Streetrave Ayr. It started at 2 in the afternoon, which was very strange. Finished at 2 in the morning. It was 12 hours, and capacity would have been 1600. On a Sunday afternoon, on a seaside town, you get kids outside licking cones, you get kids inside licking their eyebrows. The reason Ayr was chosen at the time was the guys who founded Streetrave, James Mackay and Ricky McGowan, and Jamesy was from that area. Ricky was from another area, which was Motherwell, which is probably 30-40 miles away. But the two of them were friends. They had met up through soccer hooligans. They were casuals. They both ran for Motherwell Saturday Service, they were called. They got the chance at this old ballroom, this huge old building which sat next on the Esplanade in Ayr. It was a rock venue, and it was sort of coming near its end of its time, and obviously the scene was just starting to kick off, and those two guys grabbed the Air Pavilion, and that's how we started. We couldn't spell music between the two of them, if I'm really honest, but I think like most of the kids round about that time, it was something fresh and new. They weren't promoters, they were a group of friends who wanted to put a party on and basically just have a good time. I think a few of them had been to Ibiza and stuff and seen what was happening, and obviously the papers were bringing all this acid house up and all this stuff, and that was just like a red rag for a bull. That was kids just went for that type of thing. At the Pavilion, there was a lot of casuals. There was Rangers, there was Celtic, there was Motherwell, but the violence never ever erupted in the club because of that wonder pill, which was called ecstasy. They'd be fighting on a Saturday and cuddling on a Sunday. Unfortunately, being Scottish, I never ever thought we got the recognition we deserved. We had the best crowds, we had the best clubs, and to this day we still have the best crowds.
The pure energy, the Scottish crowd will chant you as well. They go, here we go, over all your tracks. So the first time you hear that, you think, well, they shouting, but then you get to know what it is, and it's like a chant in the rhythm of the record.
The DJs never ever got the recognition that they deserved. Slam done really well for themselves. We weren't taken seriously. We went and played at the Ministry of Sound, and we got a shock. We felt they were behind us. We didn't feel the real energy that they had up here, and it was very safe. But the London thing was sort of alien to us. To be honest, we didn't give a f about it. We weren't the original promoters. There was other guys doing stuff up in Scotland. The Dirt Boxes, the Slam Boys were doing their thing. The Sub Club was happening at the time. You had different pockets. You had Aberdeen, you had Fever and Jackie Morrison. You had the Sweatbox nights, which was in Arbroath. They were pretty big as well. These were very, very healthy pockets. And people, because Scotland isn't that big, people would travel and go and do them all. We left the Air Pavilion in 1993 due to too much drugs, and we had a bit of fallout with the management of the venue, and there was just too much drugs, and the scene was splitting. The scene was going two ways. It was either going down the quality house route, which we chose, or it was coming out the hardcore scene. And that's when Resurrection and like Fantasia and stuff like that, they evolved, and it was totally different. We didn't want to do that. So we evolved and we went to the Tunnel in Glasgow, and we had nights in there, the likes of David Morales, Frankie Knuckles, Sasha Digweed, FPI Project Inner City, and we also done a place in Stirling called the Foo Bar, which was notorious. It was bonkers as well. And then in 1995, it was the time of the major sponsorships. Cream was starting to come on board, and the likes of, I think, Gatecrasher and that had started. And if we wanted to go down that route of being a big club and create a new brand, Streetrave wasn't a good name. The word rave was frowned upon, and we came up with a new concept which we thought would work for us, and we called it Colours, and Colours still blows to this very day.
You know, when we look back at the great days of clubbing, here's one club that's still great and it's still there, and luckily it hasn't lost its absolute, and they're still doing parties.
I played the last ever record at the Air Pavilion when we were Streetrave. It was a very sad night actually. I remember it playing, and Jon Mancini, who was one of the promoters, came up to me and said, after you finish tonight, that's us finished here. It wasn't planned or anything. They'd had a falling out with the people who ran the club, and obviously, as usual, people who run the clubs know better than promoters. I remember that sinking feeling, because I had so many good memories. I'd started my career there, and I'd met so many friends, and we had so many great nights, and then I was told that we were finished. It was like chop my arm off. And the last tune that I played was always the same tune. I hate the tune. If I'm really honest, I hate it. It was an old Italian thing. It was down to BPMs, it's probably about 112 BPMs, and it had a saxophone in it. And at the time it was great, because everybody was hammered, probably never. But this tune, to this very day, is an absolute anthem up here. And I must take some of the credit here, I created that anthem. Beautiful ballet, and it was by a group called Energy.